Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Now, ever since the days of OnLive, I've been excited by the concept of cloud gaming and have enjoyed seeing how different and new companies have set up their own rent-a-PC services. Cloud gaming is basically that. For a fixed or monthly fee, you get access to a powerful PC via the cloud, and using your internet connection can stream the games from said PC to your personal setup, which might not be able to run the games that you want to play otherwise. This is an ideal service for anyone who can't really afford to upgrade their system, though at the same time some would argue that instead of paying to rent a PC, you could just save that money and buy the components yourself. That isn't always as easy as some seem to suggest though, especially if you live somewhere with overinflated hardware prices. It's those who may find the idea of cloud gaming even more appealing. A while ago you may remember I reviewed GeForce Now, Nvidia's cloud gaming service, currently still in beta. It was pretty decent, but access is still limited and final pricing is yet unannounced, at the time of this video of course. Recently though, my Facebook newsfeed has been filled with ads regarding a service named Shadow. For £26.95 a month, or the equivalent in your selected currency, you get access to an 8-threaded Xeon based PC with a Quadro P5000 GPU and 12 gigs of RAM. What's pretty cool is that you also get access to the company's super fast fibre internet connection. This is beginning to sound like a sponsored video, and I'm sorry, but I can assure you it is not. If I pay for the services myself, I can be sure I'm not getting any special treatment, and guarantee any testing I do is wholly accurate. So how does this work then? Well, after signing up for the cancel anytime monthly payments, you can download the Shadow client and jump straight into setup. The first time you do this on your desktop, you'll have to run through the Windows configuration, because as I said before, you're streaming a whole PC from the cloud, not just the games. What's great about this then is that you aren't limited to gaming. You could essentially install Premiere Pro and make use of the powerful Xeon CPU for editing. Once I got to the desktop, I ran a quick speed test and I saw numbers I have only ever dreamed of beforehand. For comparison, here's my internet connection when not using Shadow. Yeah, my actual download speed is more like 1.3. More on this later though, because as you can imagine it's quite an important factor. My next move was to log into Steam, and sure enough it took just a couple of minutes to download one of my old favourites, Fallout New Vegas. Blade, the company behind Shadow, recommend at least a 15 megabit per second connection to play, and say the service is compatible with fibre, DSL, 4G, Ethernet and Wi-Fi. First of all, I tried Shadow's game streaming over my disastrous Wi-Fi, and as you can see this is the result. This isn't a screenshot by the way, you'll see something move in a minute. I then downloaded Resident Evil from my library, and once again, my connection made the whole experience a pretty bad one. This can't be blamed on Blade though obviously, but it was clear I'd have to sort out faster internet from somewhere and retry. I decided to go to my mum's house where there's fibre, and this little fella. Obviously I couldn't take my PC with me, so I decided to see how things would play out on my Lenovo laptop, as well as my 4G phone. So the first thing I did here was fire up my laptop and download Uplay before installing the Crew 2. Now I chose this one because it can be quite awkward to run on some hardware. It's not that fantastic looking, but it will give some components a run for their money. However, with this Xeon and Quadro P5000 based computer, this cloud computer, of course it did run with a pretty solid 60 frames per second. What I was more interested in, as I'm sure you are though, is the actual streaming quality. Now, the download speed at my mum's is obviously quite a bit better than at my grandparents' house. But interestingly, we still saw a few hitches and stutters here and there. The streaming experience was by no means perfect, and the quality you see on screen is pretty much the quality of the image that I was getting. It's been directly recorded with a capture card, so what you see here is pretty much what you'll get on a similar connection to this one. This is just a BT fibre optic connection here in the UK, so of course once again your experience may vary. Aside from the occasional hiccup, it ran pretty much flawlessly, and it would certainly be a welcome improvement to anyone out there who, like me in this situation, was running it on a laptop with integrated Intel HD graphics. These are graphics that, in all fairness, on some occasions would have trouble playing even the most basic of games with smooth frame rates, but here, it's a pretty good experience. So of course we must also talk about multiplayer, because this is a big part of some people's game library. Multiplayer online games, such as Overwatch, for example. Now, there's a couple of different things I want to mention here. One is that multiplayer games will run the same. There will be some graphical hitching and stutters, like I say, on my internet connection. Results will vary, of course. This can of course be detrimental to online multiplayer games where fast reactions are a must. So if you're about to, say, shoot someone, you get a lag, it's not going to work out very well for you. Another thing as well isn't just regarding the game, but titles like Overwatch, I believe it goes against the policies of Blizzard to use cloud gaming services to run your games, and it can get you banned, or so I've heard. So it isn't always a great idea to run online games using cloud-based services, and of course that's a disadvantage that doesn't even involve the stability of the gameplay itself. If you're going to get banned from using an online service, then it may not be worth it for you. In fact, it certainly doesn't sound worth it at all in that respect. Just know that, like single player games, if you are getting stutters and hitches, then this will carry across to multiplayer games as well, because it is totally reliant on your internet connection. But how does Shadow Cloud Gaming run on a phone? Well, I fired up my cheap Android device to test out just that on both 4G and Wi-Fi. So I downloaded the Shadow app from the Google Play Store, but as you can see here, after attempting to play the game on 4G, the signal was far too inconsistent. Now I actually get maximum bars or maximum coverage at my mum's house with 4G, but still it wasn't really enough to maintain a smooth frame rate. When we tried the same thing on mobile phone over Wi-Fi instead, then it worked flawlessly. I was able to play Skyrim here with no issue, aside from the usual occasional frame rates and stutters that occur due to the internet connection being used. But I have to say, all in all, those were less frequent here, and I found myself playing this for a couple of hours straight, no problem. You sort of forget that you're playing it over a cloud gaming service, and it's things like that that make such a platform pretty cool, I think. Overall, I think cloud gaming has certainly come a long way. I remember back to the early days of OnLive, the cloud gaming service that I mentioned at the start of this video. I used to have an A4 3300 APU in my system, so I know what it's like to try and run games and get nowhere, especially when it came to modern AAA titles. Sure, they would run at very reduced settings, but the fact I had a pretty fast internet connection and OnLive on my PC meant I could play some of my favourite titles of the time, like Dirt 3, with respectable and smooth frame rates. OnLive in itself was nowhere near perfect. It used to drop out occasionally, and the game library itself was quite limited, but I really liked it and I could certainly see a future in it. It was definitely a taste of things to come. When OnLive disappeared, we didn't really hear much in the way of cloud gaming for a while, and I thought that was a bit of a shame, because I thought the concept itself was pretty revolutionary, especially for those of us with slightly weaker end systems, like laptops with integrated graphics or PCs with near-ancient processors. Shadow is certainly one of the best cloud gaming services I've used, which is nice, and it certainly, I think, paves the way for the future of cloud gaming, which I feel has a big part in the world of PC gaming overall. There are a few problems, as I mentioned, and as you've seen throughout this video. Streaming isn't perfect, there will be a few frame drops, even on a pretty speedy internet connection, and with some countries implementing certain data caps, it's not going to be completely accessible by some. People may also think that the price is pretty expensive. I thought that at first, but when I realised I was paying more a month on my mobile phone contract, which I hardly ever make use of, to be honest, it started to seem a little bit more reasonable in my mind. I would have to say, try it out if you can. Give it a go, but it certainly needs a little bit more work to make it perfect. I've really enjoyed my time with the Shadow cloud gaming service. But maybe I'm a little bit biased. I mean, I love the concept of cloud gaming and bringing PC gaming to those of you who may not have had a chance to play such games before. I don't want to ramble on too much now, so I'm going to leave it to you. Check it out if you want to, if it's accessible to you in your country. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave a dislike if you didn't. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.